On this episode of Tell Us a Story. Welcome to Tell Us a Story, the podcast by Belmont City Press, where entrepreneurs and sales professionals share their journeys, insights, and strategies for success. In each episode, our guests reveal how they've overcome challenges, established their brands, and leveraged their stories to promote their businesses so you can too. I'm Red Hilton, your host for this episode. Today I'm joined by Gillian Stapleton, owner of GillianStapleton.com. So, Gillian, tell us a story.
Thank you so much for allowing me to tell my story. At GillianStapleton.com, I empower menopausal women to embrace a healthier and happier lifestyle through increased physical activity. My ideal clients are busy working mums like myself who feel they have no time and are looking to find their best self, both at work and at home, and ultimately living a more contented and meaningful life through moving more. So my keynote that I do always inspires audiences to move more, to get up off their seats and take some action. And you can find me at GillianStapleton.com, and you can also find me on Instagram at Running in Circles 42. Why 42? Well, because 42 in our side of the world is the number of kilometers it takes to complete a marathon. And my story is about running 12 marathons in my 50s and how it changed my life. And you can read my story in Running in Circles, Chasing Dreams and Dodging Hot Flashes on Amazon.
That is fabulous. I love all of that. Talk to us about how GillianStapleton.com came to be. What is your story, and bring us to where you are?
My story started at the age of 47. And again, I was that busy working mum, raising two children, being hopefully a good wife and a good CEO. And there was no time for me. And I saw an advertisement on the television here in Sydney, Australia, to learn how to run a 10K. They called it the Bridge Run in Sydney. And I went, I want to learn to run. I didn't know that you had to learn to run, and you probably don't need to learn how to run. But in my mind, it was an accountability. I went to this course. I spent 3 months training to run the 10K bridge run in Australia. And it's iconic here because it's the only time in the whole year you can run across the Harbour Bridge, which is iconic, and you finish at the Opera House, another iconic. Everybody's heard of those two amazing things in Sydney. And I ran those 10Ks. I crossed the line, and it was the furthest I'd ever run in my entire life. And some amazing volunteer popped a medal around my neck. And in that moment, my life changed, Red, because I felt like a world champion. I felt like I could do anything. If I could achieve that, what else could I achieve? And that's where our story started. I met Helen, who became a lifelong friend and now lives down the road from me. And we started running. We ran a half marathon. And then one day after a few champagnes, we said, why don't we run a marathon? And we were both busy, working mums, CEOs of businesses. And we went, well, if we're only going to run one, we'll run the streets of Paris. Booked our flights. Our husband said, we're coming too. And the four of us went off to Paris. And we ran the streets of Paris in 2009, was my first marathon. And in September, I'll be running my 14th marathon in Sydney. I'm going back to Sydney because it's such an important race for me, because it's where the journey started. And so I'll be running the iconic Sydney Marathon, which is hoping to be one of the Abbott World Majors. And I will be running that in September. So 42 kilometers across the Harbour Bridge again, all around the streets of beautiful Sydney. And I will finish at the Opera House. At some point in the day, I will finish.
The finish line is forever.
absolutely is. And I took that from your pre-recording. I love that statement. It's a great, great saying.
Absolutely. That's all you need to carry with you. It'll be there when you get there, and it's forever. It's beautiful. Talk to me about running in circles.
Running in circles, my book came about because I kept saying every time I did a marathon, and I've done all the iconic, the World Majors is a series of marathons, and I've done them all. I've done 6 of those, which is what at the moment there is 6. We're hoping Sydney will be number 7. And for me, somebody once said to me, "You just run around in circles," and often I do. I'll often do this amazing little track I've got out the back of my house. It's a 10K route through the bush. And you start at the house and you run around and you come back. And that's where it all started, because you might run in circles, but you're never the same when you come back from when you left. Running in circles allows me to deal with any problems I might have going on. It allows me to meet friends and family, community. It's connected me. And I feel like a circle is this whole being of running. People think it's just about putting on your shoes, and the ripple effect of running is far more. The circles it's made. And I was going to call the book Ripple Effect of Running, but it's the circles. There's continually bigger and bigger circles in my life that running's had such a major impact on.
Tell me what some of your ripples are. With some of the circles that have, opened and closed for you with running.
That's a great question. I mean, crossing the line of the first marathon in Paris, you really felt if I could achieve that in the we trained for about 4 months. If I can run 42 kilometers at the age of 49, what else can I do? So it opened up professionally. It really opened my mind to pushing myself through some, work and rising to the top of businesses and going, well, if I can do that, what else can I do? But it's also I've had some huge challenges in my running, and we talked about Boston. I was there in 2013 when the bomb went off. And for me, what running a marathon and training for different events has done is developed, I would say, my resilience muscle. Every time you think you've got this, you've trained, you've got no injuries, you get to the start line. And Boston, we were just on fire, Helen and I. And then the bomb came along. Well, you can't prepare for that. And it taught me that you can do the best training and the best presentation and the best thing at work, but you've got to pivot. As we said through COVID, you just got to be ready for every eventuality. And running has really taught me that.
That's awesome. And yes, the tragedy in Boston, I think being so close to it, I think it means so much to me, and having it mean so much to so many people that are not from here. It sort of connects us all. It really, it connected all of us. A horrible, horrible tragedy. But since then, what it did for, the people in the running community as well. And, having us sort of get some perspective.
Yeah. So. And as runners, we're all connected in some way. I've traveled for work, and it's given me the great privilege of being, in a work environment, and you're in a meeting and somebody says, "What are you doing tomorrow?" "Let's go for a run before work." And you meet these people. I've got friends all over the world, colleagues and friends that I've run the beautiful streets of Salt Lake City and Chicago and all these places where I was fortunate enough to work, and Sydney and all of it. And you meet people on a different level. You really get to understand them. We were out just the other morning, and we said it's like free counseling, free therapy, because you go out for a run and you say to a girlfriend, "What about this?" or "What about that?" And you get 3 or 4 different perspectives on how to solve a problem. It's fantastic. I love my running community.
There's nothing like going to a city. I had to go to Philadelphia for work, and I was there, with a bunch of people, and we went out for a run, and seeing the city as you're running through it, it was amazing. I mean, literally running the Rocky Stairs and, all of those iconic things, and you're out there, and it's total freedom to go anywhere you want and, sort of create your own path. I think that's what running gives a lot of us.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I think I've seen some other, and this week was just amazing on my Instagram, Running in Circles 42. Check it out. This week we went for an early morning run. It's quite cool where I live at the moment on the far south coast of New South Wales. And I think I've got a winning sunrise picture. It was amazing. The lake and the river and the ocean were all pink. And I think I've seen so many inspirational things getting up early, and I'm not a morning person. People say it's all right for you. And I'm going, no, you know how much I have to drag myself out of that bed in the mornings before the sun comes up and it's freezing cold, and put that gear on and head out. But I'm always rewarded. This week, it was amazing. The sunrise and the running along the beach this week it's why I run. People say, why do you run? Why do you do it? That's why, because there are moments like that when you see a city in a different light. You see the garbage being collected and you see the city waking up of a morning. And I find that just inspirational.
I talk about, and you touched on a little bit, the community that you create through running.
Yeah, and I think that for me is why I keep running. When I moved to Sydney, I moved from England. I'd been living there sort of 7 years and hadn't really. It's very difficult when you're a busy mum and you're getting children into school, and they were teenagers, so there was no meeting mums at the school gate. And I felt I'd not carved out any, of those deep friendships that I'd left behind after 40 years in the UK. And running gave me that. I joined this running group. I met Helen, and I talk about it in the book. We did the warm-up training at the Oval, and we looked at each other and went, oh, thank goodness that's over. And then the trainer, Fee, said, right, now let's start the training. And I went, you've got to be kidding me. I thought we'd finished. And we met this amazing group, this group of women that we then used to go for breakfast and coffee. And it was 6 months until we decided to go out for dinner one night, and walked into this restaurant. I said, oh, that's what you look like in clothes. And went, oh, because we'd only ever seen each other in gym gear.
Yeah.
And when I moved to the far south coast about 5 years ago, and I've met the most amazing women again. Recreated this running group. We go out 2-3 times a week. Everybody's had their life's challenges, and everybody's so supportive. And I've never met. I find that community is it's very, very meaningful to me. Recently, my husband's been through some major health challenges, and I was dealing with that in the hospital. And every night I came home from hospital, there was a cake or a bowl of soup or a loaf of bread, and they're all from the running community. Everybody just rallied, and oh, that's the real sense of community that I feel we've lost. And I've always find it in my running groups. They're just amazing. They will go to any lengths to look out for each other.
Talk about the importance of moving more.
I cannot believe that people don't move. There's this inspirational lady locally called Wendy. She's into her 80s. And when I first met her, when I moved down, she said, if you don't keep moving, you'll die. And she's right. It's as simple as that. Yeah. I can't say it. I can't soften it anymore. But moving for me has got me through menopause. It's helped me deal with all of those hot flushes. I didn't really struggle through menopause, because I was moving. Because I was moving a lot, I slept well. Because I was moving a lot, I didn't drink so much alcohol. I ate slightly better, because then when you're training for a big event, it takes 16 to 20 weeks. You're not going to, ruin it by eating rubbish. So you begin to eat better. And all again, those little circles, that ripple effect of running, has enabled me to be more active, more energy, and I think take better care of myself. And in that, role modeled that to other people.
Yeah. And tell me how that extends to other people.
Oh, well, my biggest fabulous story is, as I was going out running early on Saturday mornings, my son and daughter were still living at home, and they'd obviously seen this, that I'd leave before they were up, and I'd probably be back before they were up. They were teenagers, but I didn't know the effect that they were looking at this. And I was about to run my 10th marathon in New York in 2017, or contemplating my 10th. And my daughter rang me. She was working overseas. She said, Mum, I've got 2 charity places for New York. Do you want to do it with me? I'm like, yes. So we entered New York, and we raised a huge amount of money for World Vision at that time. And my son, who was living in London by then, I said, oh, well, if you're doing it, then I'll do it too. And so the role modeling and running New York in 2017 with both of my children, running a marathon with both of you grown children, I never dreamed. It was just never even in my visionary to think that could happen. And in chapter 10 of the book, I asked them some questions, and they were so great at the way they replied. They're printed verbatim in what they said. And my daughter did it for some incredible altruistic reasons, and still works in that area. And my son said, oh, I did it because I forgot to buy Mum a birthday present. So the perspectives But I know what it takes. I know that they had to give up 3 to 4 months of their lives to train for that. They had to get to New York and they had to run 42.195 kilometers. And I know now that that's given them an experience that they'll never forget. And I'll never forget it. It
They'll
was,
never
very
forget
dear to
that.
my heart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Talk to me about the book and, but what it teaches people and then, what you're able to sort of help people. That's, motivating women to move through menopause, literally and
Mm.
figuratively.
Yeah, I've been very, very lucky. I've been an entrepreneur for the last sort of 25 years. I ran a direct selling business, a party plan business in the UK, and that's what brought me to Australia. So woven through the book are all the little life lessons that I learned through running a small home-based business and then running multinational companies. So it's not only running focused. Each chapter is about a different marathon, but it shares insights and I hope life's lessons, I call them, that will inspire both men and women of, oh, if I was facing that challenge, here's one of mine, and I know we'll talk about it later. Another one is never wait for all the lights to be on green. I was taught that very early on in my sales career of the lights are never all on green. You just say yes, and then you move forward, and then there might be a hurdle, and then you have to move forward again. So the book will inspire people to move more. Running may not be your thing. It might be pickleball. It might be badminton, powerlifting. It doesn't matter. It's finding that passion to move and doing something you love, because if you don't love it, you won't keep doing it. And I think that's what comes through in the story.
Mm-hmm. What sort of lessons or information are they going to find at gillianstapleton.com?
That's the other side of what I do. I mean, the book was just an empowering 6 months of my life that I loved doing. And anybody out there thinking about write a book, don't wait for all the green lights. Just write it. It's
Just write
amazing.
it.
It's such a cathartic experience. And then that opened up opportunities because I love to share my passion. GillianStapleton.com. I've worked in events. I do emceeing. I do keynote speakers, inspiring other groups of audiences to move more. And that's what running marathons and writing a book has then opened the door to that, like another career that I never thought I'd have in my 60s.
Nice. Talk to me about some misconceptions when you're speaking with people about moving through menopause and, maybe running or planning for marathons. What are some misconceptions about, those things that you are typically educating people about?
Yeah, the one thing people always say to me, it's okay for you. You're a runner. But what, because people now see me as a runner. I wasn't always a runner. I didn't start until I was 47, and I was inspired by my brother who ran the London Marathon several years before. And I went, well, if he can do it, I can do it. But people look at me and go, well, it's okay for you because of this, because of that. And that's just so untrue. It's in order to run a marathon, you have to be disciplined. And I wasn't always disciplined. And I can't say I've always done the best training. It might look like that on the outside, but, I have my challenges. And, I do love a glass of wine and the old champagne. And, that's a sacrifice on a Saturday night before you go for a big run on a Sunday. And is it easy? No, it's not easy. But then life's not easy. And so often, oh, it's okay for you because you're the CEO of a business, you ran a big business. Well, it took me a lot of hard work to get there, to run those businesses. And I think often when you're looking at and I do it to others, I'm sure you're looking at the outside and you think, oh, it's okay that they've got this, that they've got that skill set. But you can learn all that if you've got the right aptitude and attitude. Now with AI and Google, you can learn it. But it's that inner discipline and that inner strength that you have to develop. And I firmly believe in running. If you only ever ran one marathon in your life, it develops that. It's like a piece of elastic. It stretches and it'll never go back.
What's your favorite part of a race?
That's a great question. My favorite part, I would say, is 35Ks. I struggle between 25 and 35. So then I know I've only got 7Ks left and I break it all down. And I think if I've done it to 35, I can walk to the finish. So I think the favorite part is that last bit where you know that everything's paid off. Even
Mm-hmm.
if last year I was running Sydney Marathon, and my husband's amazing. He's at every race. He stands on the side of the street and he waves and cheers. And at
Oh.
35K, he's got a video of me last September at Sydney Marathon saying, never again. I'm never doing this again. It was so hot. I was so depleted. And I said, never again. And then Sydney Marathon announced they were trying to be a world major, and if you ran it this year, there's possibility you're going to get the 7th star. I've got 6, so I went ping. I'm in. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh no! So for me this year, getting to 35Ks and knowing that I've got that 7th star in the bag, that's the most exciting bit. It's everything. The finish line, you sort of that comes after that. It's that. But I think that 35K is very exciting because you just know then you've done the hardest part.
Mm-hmm. What does it feel to cross the finish line for you?
Oh, a real sense of joy and achievement. And I mean, there's a quote in my book of Helen. Let me find it because it's so. This is what it
Hold up a
feels like.
copy of
She's
your book for those who are
oh,
watching it so we can see what it looks like. And
there we go.
there you
And Jill's on
go.
the front cover.
Nice.
But I think it's Helen's words, and that's why I asked her permission to put in them. Turns out it's not the distance of a marathon or the time it took. The two were simply tools to find that something inside yourself. You do not run a marathon to stop feeling or run away from a feeling. You run a marathon to feel something and find something inside yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's so thoughtful. And that's
Mm-hmm.
that you find something every time you cross the line, you find something new in yourself that you didn't know you could do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The conversation you have with yourself, every single race, you cross that finish line, it's exhilarating. And then you head into mile one and you're like, oh, is this a good idea? You know? And then depending upon the distance and you're working out your pace and, do I really want to get there at that time or do I want to get there with my legs having not fallen off? And did I tie my shoe right? And it's, we all go through
Yeah.
that, those internal conversations as we're running along and doing what we do. And, you and I have talked many times and just sort of like the time doesn't matter. The finish line will be there. And it's the joy in the journey and it's the running and the race and the camaraderie and, the time that we spend and knowing, that if you put in some hard work, there will be payoff. There'll be pain, but there'll be payoff.
Yeah, and I think you meet so many amazing, and again, people say it's right for you, but I meet people on the course. I'm never going to meet them again. I'm never going to see them go. I have a chat with them for maybe, a few kilometers. You have a chat with them, you hear their story and you go, wow, how did they do that? And it humbles me that many people go through way more than I've ever had to go through. And I think Boston was, was difficult, but the challenges people have in their lives and overcome by running and that mental chatter, I think is a really good thing for me. That's what running's given me is dealing with that mental chatter of, do I go out with a problem in my mind or all this chatter going on? And by the time I finish that marathon, it's all gone. It's
Yeah.
all gone
Yeah.
because you just deal with it all
You
while you're
solved
running.
all the world's
Yeah.
problems in 26.2 for those of us in the
Yeah.
States. Yeah.
I usually
You,
come up with a few as well. My husband hates it because I come home and I've gone to a long run and I talk about it in the book. Once I went for a big run. I said, oh, I think we need to sell the house. And he looked at me and said, where did that come? I said, well, I've just done 20Ks and I think blah, blah, blah. And within 2 weeks, the house is on the market. I'm like,
wow.
whoa. He hates it sometimes, but he's used to it after 40 years.
Yeah. I think the running community pulls you together with people paths you never would have crossed. And I remember, because I'm based out of Boston and the Boston Marathon and, I have running friends in the running community. And when they're coming into town, I position myself at mile 24 with my sign and, I'm the person that has a list and the time and when people should be coming through and I'm holding, oranges and Gatorade, I'm the supply or I have this or whatever it is. And I, some people hold up a sign and be like, Beth, so when Beth comes running by, she knows it. Like I have so many on my list that I have a sign, I hold it up with 2 arrows pointing down that says red is here. So everyone just looks for that. And people are just like, what is it? Just don't worry about it. You don't need it if you don't know, and it's just this massive sign on a pole that goes up, 15 feet in the air. And it just says red is here. And I am just, a beacon for some people as they're heading down, towards the finish line. So I've had friends from all over the world, Manitoba. I wouldn't have known where Manitoba was had I not had a running friend coming in from Manitoba, and from everywhere. So and they literally, sometimes they stop and sometimes they don't need you and they just run by. And it's the biggest connection you can make with someone. It's like, I was here for you and you knew that. And I know I helped you get to this point, and now go get your finish line,
And I've got to share a quick story there, because that's so true. My amazing husband, who's had his health challenges this year, has been at the sidelines, and it's always difficult in a big race, you would know, to see people because they just come past. So my beautiful niece Stephanie, when we went to Paris, her and her dad came out from London, and she made for me the banner out of an old piece of cotton material and she just used a pink highlighter, and it said, Helen and Jill keep the pace. Every time I've run a marathon since, we've added in the names of the people. And so this banner now is very tatty. It's very tired. It's a piece of old cloth. But my husband, Chad, stands at every race and holds it up. And so I can spot it from a kilometer away. He can't see me. And that gives me such joy to see that banner and know he's there. And he did it in Tokyo in the pouring of rain. He did it last year in Sydney in the heat. This year he'll be back again. And I'm literally going to have to retire the banner soon, because there is no room for, there's room for one more. Ren is running it with me this year in Sydney, and she's not done Sydney. So I've got to find a room space for her name. But this banner is iconic. Everybody in our community goes, oh, did I? And last year we went to Canberra and Lisa made the banner. She's like, oh, I made the banner. And it's just a piece of cloth. Yeah. And sometimes it's the little things that
it's so much more count. Though. It's so much more. It's a journey. It's a story. It's amazing.
And I will frame the banner. One day I'll put a frame around it when I stop running, and that frame will be my story.
Yeah. So, Jill, what is your Monty? What is sort of, Monty is our mascot here at Belmont City Press, our little owl, and he's sort of the beacon of all things inspirational or lessons learned. So what is a Monty that you can share with our audience?
That's for those watching, they will see that I do have a gold chain around my neck, and everybody who knows me knows this is my Monty. Many years ago, a great sales director of mine, and I was overwhelmed by building this business and looking at everybody else going, "Well, they're just amazing." And she said to me, "Jill, stop right there. How do you eat an elephant?" And she said, "One bite at a time." And I, several years later, was caught in a rainstorm on a trip and ran into the jewelry store, and this chain of elephants was in the jewelry store. I've owned this necklace probably now 25 or 30 years. I've run every marathon with it. Every time I face a challenge, you'll find me just thinking, okay, I can do this. How do I face this? How do I overcome Boston? How do I overcome this? And it's one step at a time, one bite at a time, break it down. And it applies to every area of life. So everybody knows how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you run a marathon? One step at a time.
One step at a time. Wise words.
Elephants are very wise too.
Yes, exactly. All right, let's do our rapid fire session. So I'm going to give you some options. Okay. And I have some running ones mixed in because I figured maybe those would be easy enough to answer. And just tell me what you think is it comes to first mind. We'll kind of get to know the Gillian behind the Gillian. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah, I'm ready.
Trail or road running?
Trail.
Okay. All right. Braver than me. Rest day or massage?
Rest day.
All right. Are you iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Okay. Do you prefer vintage or new?
New.
New.
Is that bad? New. Is that bad? Should say vintage.
If you 5K or 10K, what's your preferred distance?
10.
10. What are you running? What shoes?
New Balance.
New Balance. Okay. All right. So you like a wide toe box, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And as far as I'm assuming if you're Apple, you have an Apple Watch and not a Garmin?
I have a Garmin.
You have a Garmin? I love my Garmin. I love it. I absolutely love it. So, yeah. All right. Now we know. All right. So we have our guest to guest question. As you know, the guest who was on before you left a question behind for you to answer during our show. Are you ready for your guest to guest question?
Oh, I'm nervous, but I'm ready.
All right. You ready? And it is, what is advice you would give to someone starting out in your field? And you can interpret that as the business or even in running, wherever you feel.
Yeah. It's back to my mantra is one side at a time. Break it down. Don't look at the whole thing. Look at the beginning. So for running, it's get a decent pair of shoes, open the front door, and move. I was, with people that I talk to about running is just walk to the first lamppost, then run to the next one, and then walk to the next one.
Mhm.
Don't try and run the whole thing. Or download Couch to 5K, the app Couch to 5K. Just start small. Don't wait for all the lights to be on green. Just take one step. And it's the same in business. And, when you're overwhelmed by a big project, just break it down.
Mm-hmm.
Get the first task done first. And the minute you take action and do one little thing, it moves you to the next one.
Mm-hmm. Just move the chains, as they say in American football. Just move the chains. Yeah. All right. So your website again is gillianstapleton.com.
Yes.
And there they're going to find, is there a link to your book there? We'll put a link in the show notes as well, but.
No, just jump on Amazon.com and Google Running in Circles, Gillian Stapleton. That's far easier. Saves people going through different search engines. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'll put a link to it in the show notes as well. What is your final thought for our listeners?
Move.
Mm-hmm.
Move. Often so many, and particularly women in their 50s, get stagnant. Whether it's in their professional life or at home or running or moving, it's move. Just move forward, because inertia will be the death of us. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just moving and taking action. Just, you'll be contemplating. Everybody listening now will go, I should be doing something about this. The little voice in their head of saying, yeah, I should be, looking for a new job, or I should be asking for a promotion, or I should be doing. Don't wait for all the lights to be on green. Take the first step. Work out what that first step is in work or home or physical activity, and just do that one step, because then that one step will lead to two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the book again is Running in Circles by Gillian Stapleton. Easy to find on Amazon. And I can't imagine it's not going to be a fabulous read. And everyone who runs or wants to run or knows somebody that runs should run to Amazon and grab it.
Oh, I think so. Thank you, Red.
All right, my friend, we'll have to do this again sometime. And hopefully when next time you make it to Boston, look me up and I'll stand at mile 24 with my sign that says Red is here.
Oh, that gives me a new challenge. Absolutely.
Fabulous. I appreciate your time, your story, your insights. Your time is extremely valuable, and I hope I honored that here today.
Thank you, Red. You most certainly did. What a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. To our listeners, if you have a story to share, visit tellasastorypodcast.com. If you're an aspiring author, a seasoned business owner, or looking to elevate your personal brand, visit belmontcitypress.com for expert advice on writing your own success story. Trust the next chapter, because you are the author. Now, tell us a story.